I'm starting to notice a pretty stark change in the content I started creating at the beginning of my YouTube journey and the content I'm sharing with you guys now. I've done a few videos on self-awareness and how great I thought it was, and honestly why I thought self-awareness or being self-aware was like one of my greatest attributes. And I'm noticing it's starting to be one of like the worst things. But I just want to talk about what I don't feel like there's enough content on, and it's the bad and the ugly parts of self-awareness or being hyper self-aware. And I don't really see a lot of that content. I see a lot of people talking about how great self-awareness is and all the things and the benefits that can come with it, but I think there are a lot of kind of negative things. I don't want to be negative, but the reality of how it's affected me, especially recently, I just really feel the need to share. But before we get into it, I just want to welcome everyone who's new. Welcome back to my returning subscribers. My name is Bridget. On this channel, you'll find me talk a lot about my mental health as a whole, or just mental health in general. I talk a lot about introverts and social anxiety. Those are like one of my favorite things to talk about. And so if any of those things interest you, make sure you go check out some of my other videos. Don't forget to like this video if you found it helpful or useful. Comment below what you'd like to see more from me, and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. So let's get into the video. So like I was saying at the beginning of this video, I'm noticing a difference between the content I was pumping out when I first started my channel and the content I'm creating now. Obviously, that happens to most people who do YouTube, I think. Like, content shifts a lot. And the videos I made then on topics that I still talk about, I have different views on, and it's totally natural. Like, I'm a woman in her mid-20s. I've started my channel like almost 2 years ago, and I've changed a lot since then. My life is completely different, so my views are obviously going to change with that. I used to be a big fan of self-awareness. I actually thought, I guess, like pretty highly of myself, because I thought at the time like I was so much more self-aware than people around me, peers around me, friends around me, whatever the case was, even family. And I still do think that self-awareness has really, really helped me, especially in terms of my mental health. Years ago, when I was experiencing, I guess somewhat traumatic and very uncomfortable things as it relates to like family and stuff, it did help me. It helped me push through those times where I don't know if I would have made the right choices for myself. But I think as it relates to what's happening in my life now, it's gotten increasingly more difficult to say that it's like the best thing ever and it's my best attribute. The definition or the theory of self-awareness is that we are not our thoughts, right? We hear that all the time. You're not your thoughts. We are only observing our thoughts. So we are the thinker separate from those thoughts. We are constantly thinking thoughts throughout the day. We are letting them pass. We're choosing to act on them, or we're choosing not to act on them. But we really don't create those thoughts. And so part of being self-aware is acknowledging not only those thoughts, but how we are acting upon those thoughts, right? Are we acting in accordance with our standards or our values? And part of what being self-aware brings us, and what it's also brought me, is the fact that I can self-evaluate myself. Am I following my own standards or my own values, right? Am I helping myself and choosing the right things or doing the right things to either bring me closer or further away to wherever the heck I want to be? Am I helping myself or am I harming myself? I think self-awareness has also brought me great self-control with some things. You know what? I don't even want to get into it. It's gonna put me down a trail of things that I don't really want to talk about. Self-control in the sense that if I keep making these choices is it going to send me down the wrong path? Or if I keep watching this thing or reading about this thing or talking to this person, is that going to help me in the future? Or is it going to impact me negatively in the future? So keeping a close sense of who I surround myself with, what kinds of foods I keep in the house, what kinds of news I'm reading, or what kinds of content I'm consuming on social media, all of that stuff. And I think I have a pretty decent sense of, okay, I really shouldn't be doing this. I think self-awareness has also brought me a great sense of perspective. And I've talked about perspective and how I've always had a pretty good sense of perspective, because growing up mute was very, very difficult, and I did have to rely on other senses, right? And perspective and observation was one of those things I was heavily, heavily relying on at the time to just communicate with people around me. And so as it relates to the self-awareness, I think by being self-aware, we also do get a really good sense of other people's point of view, right? So if I'm thinking about my actions and judging my actions, I'm also going to inherently be thinking about other people's actions and judging them as well. But see, this is where I want to like flip everything right now, because it does bring a sense of judgment. And I'm noticing I've gotten increasingly more judgmental to some pretty important people in my life. And at first I didn't really see it as a negative thing, but as I'm hearing it more from people and I'm noticing myself do it without even thinking about it, I'm starting to notice it like might be a problem. If you watched a video that I did recently, probably like 2 months ago or so, I'm gonna link it up here. It's funny, I think, maybe, I don't know. I took a personality assessment, and at the beginning of the video, I said, I am an INFP through and through. And after taking the test, that had completely changed. Not by much, but I was an INFJ. And the difference between that F and P is, are you perceiving or are you judging? I'm sorry, I said F and P, I meant P and J. Are you perceiving or are you judging? And what I was like, okay, wow, that's really good, because coming from a place where I was always people pleasing, I'm gonna do this for you, live by other people's expectations of me and all that stuff, it was a sense of like, I'm becoming confident, I'm becoming this version of myself that is loud and that voices her opinion and, asserts herself in whatever kind of place she's in. And so at first I was like, hey, this is great. This is great for me. I feel like this fits my personality more. And now I'm thinking like, am I too judgmental? It also might be because I'm consuming maybe more negative content, especially on social media. I feel like as a society, we've been so judgmental of everything. I think everything that somebody puts out online, immediately judgment, immediately negative comments, immediately someone has to voice their opinion on it. And I get it, everyone's entitled to their opinion, whatever, but like, you don't always have to say it. And why do you feel the need to say it? So I don't know, but I do find myself getting more judgmental. Another thing that I'm noticing is filming. When I first started my channel, I was very shy, I was very awkward, not really finding my voice in terms of what I really wanted to put out there and how I really wanted my viewers to perceive me, and how much I was willing to share, how much I was willing to get uncomfortable and vulnerable. And so it was an entirely different experience. But now I think over the past like year and a half, I've really shared more of me. And as I do that, as I get more vulnerable and more uncomfortable in the thoughts that I'm sharing online, I'm getting more self-aware of how I look when I'm on camera, how I sound, if my thoughts are intelligible or not, if I'm communicating in a way that I want you guys to perceive. I'm hyperfixating on such small things and nuanced things, and it does get in the way of the content that I share and the content that I want you guys to see. So that's a really, I guess, annoying part of being more self-aware. I'm also noticing that I've been more self-aware in public and meeting new people. I've talked about this a little bit in last week's video. My husband and I's moved to Florida and meeting tons of new people because we didn't know anyone here. And most of the people in our life now are older than us. And like, I'm talking 10, 15, 20 years older than us. And that's who we surround ourselves with. And I do think it's great. I think it's amazing. And I like that we both do that. But it is very hard when like you're meeting somebody who's quite far ahead of you in terms of just life in general, like life experience, relationships, career, etc. And you do get very, especially me, I can't really speak for other people, but I'm very in my head when I meet new people. And if there is like a gap, at least in my head, I'm going to think about it, and I'm going to make sure and hyperfixate on, am I bringing my best self to the table? Am I doing the right thing? Am I saying the right thing? Am I dressed appropriately? It's things that I never even would have hyperfixated on that I do now, because I'm in this new environment and I'm still in this state of being hyper self-aware. So I think I do this a lot in a video where I'm like, okay, I'm finding something to wrap up. I'm noticing that being self-aware or hyper self-aware, I don't know what it is that I am, can be a good thing in the right environment, in the right time of your life. And it can also be somewhat detrimental in another part of life. So I'm noticing now that some of those things that I was carrying and that I was holding myself or holding as something that was a really great quality and that was really helping me is not something that's helping me anymore. And that happens so frequently in life, especially during these years where you're changing and you're growing and you're constantly questioning your purpose and if you're doing the right thing. So some of those things that you thought were once good for you may not be so anymore. And I'm noticing a lot of that. So self-awareness, I guess I feel indifferent towards. I was really fond of it at one point, and now I'm noticing how it can negatively affect certain aspects of my life. So I'm starting to let some of it go. So hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully some of you guys, after watching this or during the course of this video, have realized that maybe you are also following some of these patterns and maybe it's time to let them go. Ultimately, that's what I like for you guys to get out of these videos. I'm sharing what's going on in my life and how I'm reacting to it and what I think about it. And I kind of just want you guys to not only relate, because I think watching somebody who you relate to is really beneficial, but I also want you guys to take something away from this, obviously. So leave me a comment, let me know if this relates to you, if this also happened to you, something that you're letting go, and also what you'd like to hear more from me. So thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye.